Are you an audio fan who loves hyper detail, looking for a small profile DAC under $1,000? Stay tuned. I believe I have something you might find worthy to audition. Hi everyone, Mark from Audio Pursuit. First, I want to thank Rosemary at Apos Audio for providing this review sample. The D90 III Discrete, or D90 III Discrete, as I'll refer to it, is a small footprint DAC, making it ideal for many modern home audio situations. The D90 III, for what it's worth, is also a very visually appealing unit. As you can see, the review model came in this brushed silver, while they also offer a black finish. Along the front panel, you have a small square power button selector button on the left side, a monochromatic LED screen that thankfully uses a couple of nice sized fonts that were readable from my listening chair some 8 feet away, and finally the volume selector knob button, which is slightly deeper than the SMSL DO400 and makes for easier control. Plus, the actual feel has a bit more resistance, allowing for smoother rotation. The remote has no lag and easily change the volume up or down or other settings without hesitation. Like many, I appreciate the internal power supply rather than an off-board brick. The back panel, from left to right as you can see, includes your XLR outputs, your vertically aligned RCA outputs, followed by numerous inputs beginning with an I2 squared, coax, optical, a Bluetooth antenna, USB input, and then finally an AES balance for the couple of dozen people using MQA. And finally, you have a vertically aligned trigger in and out, followed by the power socket and master rocker switch. Under the hood is where things get interesting. Though the D90 III Discrete does have a window on the top right of the hood just to look at the PSRM Plus, the 1-bit DAC chip implementation. This design is where the D90 III Discrete gets its name. The 1-bit approach is not new. It's been around since the latter part of the 1980s and does just as its name implies. The digital on-off switch happens 1 bit at a time. Topping claims this keeps the noise from entering the signal. For a first-rate explanation, see my friend Ed Homewood of Old Guy HiFi's video on this unit, the D90 III Discrete. The PSRM keeps the voltage stable, thus eliminating another potential source of noise. Finally, the D90 III employs the Altera Max 2 chip for jitter control. Initial setup of the D90 III Discrete truly requires reading the manual, unless you have a great deal of experience with topping products. There are 2 levels to set up. Input selection is accomplished by quickly pressing in the button on the front panel until your input of choice shows up. Pressing and then rotating the knob controls the output connection. Setting up the screen brightness, selecting which of the 6 IS2 squared presets and other settings is labeled as 1 through 20, which seems strange but is actually welcome. To dive into the deeper controls requires one to push the square button to the left of the screen while flipping on the master power rocker switch on the back panel. Working the parametric EQ requires one to touch the center button inside the circular control wheel on the remote. The sound of the D90 III Discrete in general is quite similar to the SMSL DO400, as they're both very clinical DAC units in their sound character. Though I do believe the D90 III, from listening, has a greater level of refinement in the top end. You can hear the closed hi-hat with its subdued sound in Donald Fagen's New Frontier. And when the cymbals are hit, you get a nice shimmer. Though I believe it's lacking just a bit of resonance that the FiO K9 or the Aries 2 by Denafrips delivers. The electric guitar solo, mid-song, does have a nice sense of detail. The cowbell at the end of New Frontier is quite clean, but misses out on some richness. I did find that the D90 III Discrete to be more enjoyable with my Magnepan .7s, as those speakers I found are a little bit subdued on the top end compared to the Buchart S400 Mark IIs. Therefore, that analytical, brighter sound does give a nice assist, though I did detect a bit of ringing at the very upper registers. Having heard it with every listening session with a variety of speakers, I can definitely say that it is a part of the D90 III Discrete's character, though it's important to note that with the Magnepan .7s, it was less noticeable. Of course, this ringing was definitely more evident with what all of us audio fanatics, files, etc. Call hotter tracks. For me, the ultimate measurement is Donald Fagen's Chamerican album. This recording will test any system's upper registers. I've always used it to demonstrate whether a speaker is still a long listening session pleasure or not. The opening tom hits in Joe Jackson's Another World are scary clean. This is the strength of the D90 III Discrete, clarity of sound, especially when resolving a single instrument being played rather than a full band or orchestra. When the DAC can focus on just a single instrument, the impact on the listener is profound. Joe Jackson's vocals are definitely well resolved here with his nasal intonations, which is his signature, and it allows for his biting lyrics to take hold. And those are put front and center. The bongo solo near the end of Target demonstrates once again that the D90 III Discrete is absolutely exceptional at single instrument detail. I was so impressed, I put that song into my review list just to see how other speakers and DACs and amplifiers can handle those 30 seconds. The D90 III Discrete seems to allow for upper frequencies to control the sound of the song in some ways. Those instruments are placed front and center, while other instruments seem to be pushed back a bit in comparison. And I don't mean the back end rhythm of a bass guitar. I'm speaking of lead guitars and vocals, mid to mid-lower levels of the piano, and other mid-range to mid-bass instruments. They just can't seem to get in front of those higher frequencies. Though it was interesting that at the end of stepping out, the D90 III Discrete does show the percussionist hitting near where the fingers are holding the triangle, thus muting the ringing and dropping down the frequency level, leaving just a tapping sound that is nicely resolved and is easily missed on other DACs. When I get a piece of review equipment in, I always first inject that piece, especially a DAC, into my reference setup of the Gallion TS A75 amplifier, Oppo HA1 that I use as a preamp, the WIM Ultra Streamer, and the Buchart S400 Mark II speakers or the Magnepan .7s. The purposeful, warm-leaning output of the A75 amplifier did assist the D90 III Discrete in taming a bit of its sharp character, though I honestly didn't find it to be as revealing in the middle and lower registers as my reference Denafrips Aries 2 DAC. It did have more top-end frequency detail. I will definitely say that when I paired it with the Class D GANFET Orchard Audio Stark Rimson Ultra Amplifier that I just reviewed, it was a bit much after about 45 minutes on my Buchart S400 Mark IIs. And on the inexpensive Focals I usually keep in my garage shop, it was a 2-song maximum. The sound was just too intense and bright for my taste. The combination that brightness and sharpness in a cool mid-range just didn't ring my pleasure bell. The topping D90 III Discrete, based upon my personal taste, will work best in systems with a slightly warmer, laid-back sound. With my vacuum tube Vista Audio i34 integrated, the D90 III Discrete gave a first-rate balance to the warmth of the glowing glass. This was my favorite pairing during my time with this DAC. The ringing fell away into the deep background. And while the mid-range plumped up, and that's important because most of the music really resides in that middle range. It didn't matter what genre I was listening to. The combination of the tubes and the D90 III Discrete was definitely my favorite. There is no question why topping has a loyal following with average audio fans / fanatics / files. The measurements are insanely good, such as the signal-to-noise ratio of 131 dB. The crispness and the detail with the upper frequencies are really good. For those that crave such resolution, it's a favorite. When paired with a vacuum tube preamplifier or amplifier, even the warmer musicality crowd will find happiness with the D90 III Discrete. Therefore, I most definitely recommend that this should be on one's audition list in the $1,000 DAC price range. Once again, thanks to the good folks at Apos Audio, especially Rosemary, for this review sample. For all of you, I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Now go find a great album, tune out the negativity in the world, and get lost in the music. Take care, everyone.